Level Up Latina partners with working women and mamas alike to guide them in achieving fulfilling career and life goals through financial empowerment, professional or leadership coaching, and personal wellness. Find the unique coaching you need to succeed.
You're listening to Vero, Ceci, and Irene, and we are Level Up Latina.
Welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Latina podcast. This is episode 220. Who's at 220? This is episode 273, and we're so excited to be here because this is not only our monthly random show for the month of November 2024. This will be the last show of the year for us. This month already included two incredible guests. It already included a wonderful topic on getting better at things that you're bad at. And now we're going to bring you a really effective, fun, full of surprises, random show. And then we're going to take a much deserved December break. You will get to get a rewind. You will get to hear other shows. But we are so excited to be here today. Las tres de nosotros, we have so much good stuff up our sleeves. We are amazing, badass women together, business women, amigas primero. So much. You can probably hear it in my voice. So much is coming next year. And we'll announce a little bit of that at the end of the show. So stay tuned and stick with us. It's going to be a fun random show. But before we get into it, I'm eating pumpkin pie. So no me juzguen because I love my pie. This one I eat the inside, not just the crust. So you're going to hear me yapping. There might be kiddos in the episode. It's all good. We got sick babies at home, beautiful babies at home. We have puppies at home. They're worse than the babies because they don't give a shit and they will just bark through the whole episode. And we have these two amazing mujeres que les van a saludar while I stick pumpkin pie in my mouth. ¿Cómo están?
Go, Ceci.
Pero such a perf. Ya iba a
Put in your mouth, girl.
Yo iba a decir algo.
Go ahead, perf. What's that?
Oh my God. Speaking of...
Mejor la Scorpio ahí.
Not perv. Sí, yo, because it's my birthday.
Hey. Oh, yeah, it's my birthday month.
Happy birthday, Ceci.
We're recording at the beginning of the month, but my birthday is mid in the month, the 17th. Anyway, oh my God, your pumpkin pie looks so good.
It's delicious.
Did you get okay? So Chef Marcela was on our podcast earlier this month, but last night she posted about a pumpkin pie that she made last night or yesterday with her kids, and one of her kids like devoured it. Like he's like it looks delicious. It looks delicious. Looks amazing.
Of course, we start this episode eating and talking about food and talking about the chef.
And then 'tis the season for pumpkin pie. So
didn't you love her? Didn't you guys love Chef Marcela? She made me want to run through a fucking wall and eat that ass.
Even though I got
she's
thrown off by my phone because he was heating, overheating.
And crying at the end of the episode. You could feel her.
Girl, estaba chillando y escuchándola. Yeah. Go on, Ceci.
Qué bonito.
Oh, well, I was just stuffing my mouth with ginger ale cranberry, which is like for the season. 'Tis the season. I'm a ginger ale, love it, fiend. I try to not buy it as often because it has sugar. Too much sugar, no good for you. This is 36 grams. Don't do it. But if anything, I like it. It's really good. And I indulge in it when I can. So I'm excited to be here. I can't believe that, Irene, you started off saying 220. And it's like, yep, we need a break. We've had a great year. And it's good to check in about food and what we put in our mouths and all that great stuff. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for us to have our holiday break. We are recording this very early in the month of November. So we are going to be talking about randomness the last week of November when you hear this episode, but it's the randomness that's in our life right now. So we have just gotten over Halloween. We're moving into Thanksgiving, into Christmas. But again, we're going to take much needed time to travel. We're going to take time to be with family and just step away and enjoy our kids. They'll be on break. They'll be off school. So before we get into the random questions for today, I just wanted to remind everybody that there are so many episodes in our library. So when you miss us in December, take a listen to the ones we throw back or take a listen to any. I've been meeting a lot of women lately who are like on episode 30, episode 100, and I can't believe that we're like at 273. Like, this is insane. I'm so proud of us. We did it. Somehow we freaking show up for this podcast. And so we do it for our listeners. We do it out of love. We do it because we hope that you can relate, that you can level up, that you can feel seen and heard. We bring our most authentic selves to this, especially the random show, because we just ask random ass questions of each other. We don't know what we're going to ask. So, hey, we're just going to be ourselves. We were dabbling with the idea of doing this over video. I know we've mentioned that before. We're probably, speaking of surprises in the show, we're probably going to get there for 2025. And you really get to see the real. You get to see the pumpkin pie we're talking about, the dogs, the kids, el greñero, las flores de Trader Joe's, all the books behind Vero que ni los está leyendo, pero ahí los tiene, like collecting stuff. Te conozco, Vero.
It's coming in this way. It's osmosis.
I'm kidding.
Let's add the water.
She's probably read them all.
Dry.
She's probably read them all. Don't get it twisted. But my first question of the day, since this is the wrap up for the year in November, is what has been your favorite 2024 memory? And by the way, 2024 feels like it was a long year in the end. But do you have a 2024 memory that you just are like, I'm going to take that with me?
I do.
Look at the smile que tiene la Ceci.
I do. Ceci, can I just go real quick? All right, sorry. You're like, girl, you already have your microphone on. You go ahead.
No, I'm thinking about it and like, yeah, I'm getting emotional. But so you go. Te doy la
Gracias. For me, it made me emotional when it happened, and but it was also very beautiful. And it's when my son called me for my birthday from his classroom.
Oh my God.
So last January, Joaquincito was like, Mom, ¿es tu cumpleaños? Sí, mi amor, es mi cumpleaños. And all that. So I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, feliz cumpleaños. I dropped him off at school, come back. And around, I don't know, maybe 10, 11, I get a phone call. And I'm like, great, one of the kids is sick. They're probably, I could tell it was a number from the school. Like, it said Compton. And then I was like, oh my God, one of the kids is sick. I'm going to have to pick up one of the kids. It's all good. It happens, right? And I pick up the phone and it's his teacher. He goes, hi, Miss Veronica. It's Miss Kimmy. And I have someone that wants to talk to you. Y me pasa el teléfono y le hace, hola, mami. Hola, mami. Soy yo, Joaquincito. Te quería decir feliz cumpleaños. Y y todos mis amigos te queremos cantar. And they start singing happy birthday to me. And it just was like, I was like, oh my goodness. It was just beautiful that my son would be like, here I'm going to school. Let me think, like thinking of me. I'm like, you're in there at school. You're not thinking of your parents. You're a kid. You got to go learn and, and explore and do all that stuff. And he just chose to ask his teacher if she can call me so the whole class can sing happy birthday to me. So I think that's one of the memories I'm going to take with me for 2024. I mean, there were so many other beautiful ones, so many more beautiful ones, but I think that one just like landed in my soul and I don't want to forget it. it. So yeah, that's what I want to share.
How old is Joaquincito?
Joaquincito's 5. So at that point, he was 4, gonna be turning 5 in February.
Oh.
So he had a little lisp, Mami, hola, sí, soy Joaquincito, like. So it was the cutest thing. And I don't want to forget it. I don't want to let it leave my memory or my heart. So that's why I wanted to share it. But there's so many beautiful things happened in 2024. That's probably the one I'm going to cherish for a long, long time. Because he just got to my heart with that.
Qué bonito. Y tú? Ceci, you were already crying before we even talked, I think.
Oh my God, I know. Because I'm just thinking about like the whole year. And yes, there were a lot of beautiful moments, but also sad. My mom passed away in January. So, each month has been hard, but then I don't know, like just significant in the sense that like I feel her, I've talked about this, her memorial funeral services, like that was beautiful. Like a lot of people showed up. It was beautiful, like siempre voy a estar muy agradecida por eso. My friends, like they showed up, like las que pudieron físicamente, las que no ayudaron, like económicamente, like with flowers. Oh my God, her flowers were beautiful, But I have to say probably the most, I think, que me voy a acordar siempre is our trip as a family of 4 to Spain, a much needed trip. And I forgot if I talked about this on the podcast. I definitely want to say that I shared it with you two ladies. But being in this restaurant in Spain, in Madrid, eating in a place where my mom had been to eat, right, with her siblings when she traveled with her siblings 6 years ago, whenever that was. And just being in that moment and like sitting at the table and just thinking of her and feeling her. Luis and the girls had gone to wash their hands before eating. And I just thinking like, wow, how cool that my mom was here. And I was thinking in my head, like, I wonder where she sat. I wonder, I just like her having that experience. And I was looking around, like looking at the wall, and there was photos of like toreros, just like the Spanish culture. But I don't know where a photo of La Virgen de Guadalupe, or Santa Patrona de Mexico there. And I just was like, I started crying. I was like, hi, Mike, my mom's here. Like she's with us on this trip. Nos está cuidando. And that's like the most. I mean, I have felt her many, many times throughout the year, but ahí la sentí tan presente y sentí tan bonito that nunca se me va a olvidar, you know, just having that, like, why is La Virgen de Guadalupe here in a Spanish restaurant amongst like photos of, you know, bullfighters and just the Spanish culture, no other saints, no other religious image, but the La Virgen de Guadalupe there. And I was like, okay, that's my mom. So I'm never going to forget that.
Oh,
Qué bonito. Two really beautiful sentimental moments. I have one just equally as sentimental. It's funny the things that matter. It's not like, who's going to say the car I bought? Like, no one's going to say that. I mean, if you do, I'm not judging you for judging you. But mine was, I was thinking a lot about like moving my son to college, but that wasn't really my answer. My relationship with him has been like really developed and it's more adult and I just love it. And I have so many beautiful moments of my relationship with my adult son that I'll never forget from this transition year. But my most beautiful memory is definitely going to be in the last week. My mom has remodeled her room. She had like new floors. She's painting the walls. She had to empty her closet. And my mom is someone who borderline is a hoarder and my brother is too. So it's funny. I mean, you can like walk through their house and they don't have old things and cat feces or anything, but they have a lot of things. And this is one of those moments that like being borderline a hoarder is good because my mom has things that are 50 years old, 60 years old, like still there, still collecting dust. But she wanted help because she can't really see going through paperwork that may be important or not and making sure she doesn't throw away pictures. So in the last week, I've gone to her house twice. And I have been bombarded with the most beautiful pictures of a time before my life, a time of my young life, my life now. But my mom is like a time capsule. Her stuff is like a time capsule because I'm sure that since she stopped being able to see and collect photos and stuff, maybe the last 10 years aren't as vivid. But when I was little, I used to think that she didn't have a lot of pictures of me because she had a lot of pictures of my brother who's 2 years older than me. But now I'm realizing she does have a lot of baby pictures of mine. They were all kind of in different places and it's enough. I used to say she didn't have a lot and like, shit, if it's 20, that's plenty. Like just to be able to see myself at that age. And I might get emotional too, but it's been really beautiful to go through like the photos of my dad young, my mom young. My mom was just gorgeous. We said this on an earlier episode about someone being elegant. Like my mom was elegant and humilde, pobre, never had anything really that she was proud of until many, many recent years when she was able to buy a home. But even when she didn't have much and they lived in this little tiny home and they didn't have a lot and they were struggling, like she was so gorgeous, my mom. And yeah, I don't know that, you know, it was before my time. So my favorite memory is going to be going through that stuff with her, being in such a good place with her. And yesterday, my husband found this letter that someone obviously helped her write because it's in English and it's typed. I'm thinking my sister, my niece is someone. But she writes this letter that I, of course, forgot about and hope I didn't take it for granted in the moment. I'm sure it meant a lot to me, but she pasted all these pictures on this letter. I posted on social media. So I'm sure you guys saw it yesterday if you looked. And it's got like a picture of me in a walker. Like that's a wonderful baby picture. A picture of me in like preschool, which I love. Last year I looked at awards that she saved from preschool. I got the Motor Mouth Award and the Miss Bossy Award. Is that not me? Is that not me?
Oh yeah.
Bossy
Totally.
Tucker. Bossy Tucker. You just are who you fucking are beginning in 3, 4, 5 years old. I had really good grades and so she's kept a lot of my awards and things teachers have said about me. And so when I found this letter, it was really sweet because she's like, ever since you were in kindergarten, you know, they told me how bright you were and how much potential you were. And she said this line like, that the kindergarten teacher told her, Mrs. Sanchez, your daughter has a bright future. And she always hung on to that. And then I went to college and I was top of my class and I've always been a role model and made my nieces and nephews proud. And it's funny because I've said in the podcast through the years how my mom can be a tough person to love, how it's hard to make her proud of you. Like she can be critical. She wrote this letter over 20 years ago. And it's like, I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. You are a star and you are a good example and you're a hard worker and all these things. It's here. Like she said it, she felt it, whatever our relationship was, like it's always been there. And she doesn't even know how much further I've come in my life, graduating college. I hadn't done anything yet. But for her, it was a huge deal letting me go to college. Like she writes there that I took a piece of her heart when I went to college and I still made her proud. Anyway, this letter meant a lot to me. But the part that meant a lot to me is he said that I was such a good example for my nieces and my nephews. And my nieces and my nephews reached out yesterday and talked about how that's true and it's awesome and they're so proud to be my nieces and my nephews. And I thought that was like so cool to be such a good example for my family, even when I felt at times that I was misunderstood or rebellious or kind of on my own. Vero talks about isolation earlier. And oftentimes in my family, you can feel a little isolated because you are trying to break away and be different and you are misunderstood, and it's lonely when you're misunderstood. It's very lonely. So my family, it's a little bit hard to sometimes feel like you belong, but my extended family, not my actual family here at home. But it was very sweet to feel that I have made her proud, and I can say that. And if only she knew, like, even in the last 20 years, like, I think I've even more exceeded her expectations because I'm a good mother, like she was. And not because of the things I have, but because of the way I've raised my own kids, and I'm trying to be a role model to them. And my kid in college, the things that he expects, the experiences that he's having, all that was because I was able to go to college because of my mom. And I just am so proud of it. So I think it kind of matches, like, who my child is now as an 18-year-old. It's like, wow. And he's sharing it with me. My son is sharing photos of his life, of his parties, of fun. He's allowing me to see that and be in his world. And I just love that. And I think that it's all thanks to my mom. So that's my favorite memory, believe it or not, going through the hoarding material and really loving it, bringing half of it home. My mom goes, what do I do with all this? What do I do? Like, one day you're all going to probably just throw it away. And I go, no, just put all these pictures in a box y cada quien que venga que recoja lo suyo. Yo una vez ya me llevo lo mío. Oh, Sissy, I'm sorry. So I picked some of the photos and I'm like, no one wants my baby album. It's coming home with me. And I said, you're going to be fine, Mom. Everybody's going to come and collect lo suyo. What I do regret not doing is taking a few that were like badass photos of her and my dad, but I'm trying to be fair. So I just took shit that it was of me. But I'm going to fight for those later. Family listening, I'm going to fight for those photos. I did snap a lot of photos. Anyway, that was my favorite memory. Didn't mean to go on and on and on, but this just happened yesterday. And I hope that everybody can be inspired by archives and old photos and take the damn photos and love on your parents. Because, Ceci, I'm sure you can agree that you had to go through that this year and look at beautiful photos. And as sad as it may be, Ceci, it's also beautiful because the ring that you wear that is your mom's ring and the things that you have that are your mom's, one day they're not going to be here anymore. And it's all we got left. So those photos were beautiful. Great part of 2024. Oh my God, everybody's crying. My bad. My bad. We're all crying. No one's going to be able to talk the rest of this show. My next question is going to be like, why are you guys crying? You going to be able to answer that?
Yeah.
¿Qué te está pegando?
A mí me está pegando eso because you just described what I did early in the year, like just going through all my mom's stuff. Like I found letters. I found like letters from her own mom that she kept, and I kept them. I kept them because, oh my God, I didn't have no me sirven de nada, but it's like, it was something sentimental to her that she kept from her own mom. So I kept it. And so I have like a portfolio with all of her stuff, like all her important documents. I mean, I tell she had like statements from like years ago. I'm like, she doesn't need it. So how's that? But todo me cupo en un portafolio. She had like, her marriage certificate, all those. So I have that in a portfolio, including like the letters from her mom and letters that she kept from like all of us. She kept like cards that I made for her like in elementary school. So I'm laughing and crying because I'm like, yeah, that's like her treasure. So I wanted to keep that treasure for her. And yeah, the photos like I kept. I'm like, gave some to my sister, to my brother. So that's why I'm crying because I'm like, yeah, I did that, and I kept a lot of her tops, a lot of her blouses because she was a short woman, so sus pantalones no me quedaban, ni sus zapatos because she had a small foot. But I don't know, it was hard to like toss it, so I gave it out to like my cousins that have a smaller foot, or mi tía, so that fits in her pants or whatever, and then. Yeah, I think I even give stuff to Doña Mari because my Doña Mari, she's a short woman too. So I'm like, tenga Doña Mari. So,
qué bonito. So in other words,
yeah,
there will come a time because you might have to go through that. It's very emotional, and your parent isn't here. But if your parent is still here, like take us his advice and like have those conversations and talk about those things they have and what they would like to happen with those things. Take a lot of videos, right, of your family and have their voice. I'm sure that you all took advantage of all the photos that you could take and the videos and the questions and the things to record. So there's still time to collect the stuff to hoard, to one day cry about with your friends on a podcast 15, 20 years from now. For me, it's like a full circle moment because I'm like, man, a lot of this stuff is like photos of my mom before she even had me. And here I am, like, el tiempo pasa, guys, el tiempo pasa. Like, there's a beautiful photo that I love. I was just all done up. I was 4 years old, 40 years ago, like almost 40 years ago. But God, el tiempo pasa. Right.
Sí. Pasa rapidísimo, rapidísimo. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, make time. That's one, I mean, not regret, but now that, there's days that I just sit down and like, or it pops up memories of this, So I'm like, or you know how you can like pictures of, the face, like pictures of my mom. So salen puros videos. So then I'm like, why did I take such short videos? Like, why am I like 15 seconds? I'm like, I crave seeing more of them. I'm like, dang it. Wow. But es lo que tengo, es lo que tengo, because maybe I was, I'm going to bring in therapy. I told my therapist this like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, I was looking at videos and I'm just like, why did I take such a short video of that? I should have recorded my mom longer doing X, Y, and Z. And she said, well, like maybe you were just in the moment. Like maybe you were there and focused en el momento and, disfrutando el momento.
Can't delete voicemails that my mom leaves me. I'm like, one day I'm going to have to delete it. I cannot delete. I have so many of my mom's voicemails. I delete everything else to make up space, but I'm like, dear God, cuando llegue el día, what am I going to do? I think you can download them and just save them. So I've got to do that at some point, but I can't delete. And they're all, half of them, I think I've already said this on the show. They're saying nothing. Like she's like, Irene, ¿estás allí?
Son las 2:30 de la tarde. Te estoy hablando, pero siempre estás ocupada.
Sí, este teléfono no sirve, ni sé si me estás escuchando or something.
I have the same.
Esta perra, luego te hablo. Or just I have them saved. Marcela, that's not even me. That's my sister.
She called you by the wrong name. Oh my God, I know. Yeah. I know. I have, you know what? I guess because I switched phones, or I don't know, I would always answer my mom right away. I only have like 2. One of them is like background noise and like just like random, but the one that I do have on this phone, and like I kept it, and she's saying, what is she asking for? Oh, because my sister had come over. She's like, hey, no se te olvide mandar, I don't know, a nail polish, something para las uñas, con Diana. Okay. And then she's like, bueno, los quiero mucho. And I'm like, oh my God. So I save that. I'm like, I want to like save it and do like with that, los quiero mucho or whatever. I want to, how like Build a Bear can like do the voice. I want to do that like for the girls or something.
I love that. ¿Por qué chillabas tú?
Ay, es que me pegó al corazón. Like, gracias a Dios, mis padres están vivitos, ¿verdad? Pero estamos llegando al fin del año y es un año más. And knowing that they won't have much longer. They're going to have, Dios quiera, les dé una vida larguísima. Dios quiera, ¿verdad? Eso le pido. But it's like, I think I just recently saw a post that says like, time is the only, I no sé qué, algo along the lines of, I took a screenshot and I'll look it up right now, but it's the only thing we don't have a balance of. So everything else you could see, right? Yeah. Oh, I have this much money in the bank and here's my balance, or I have this much here and I have this balance. And with time, it's the only thing that you don't know what your balance is. It's like we have to live every day, a como decimos siempre, very cliche, lo máximo, a como puedas, ¿verdad? But I know that our days are counted. My parents are older. I see that. And this year was just so much more noticeable. My dad got more tired as he did things in the backyard and with his trees and like helping me here at the house when he would come over and like, tend to the trees and to some of the stuff in the garden. Mi mamá igual le encanta venir y cuando viene al jardín rápido, but like with her, like her ailments and it's just seeing them so much older. And I'm like, that's why I'm like, it tugs at me. I'm like, I'm so blessed that they're still here, but it's like, how do I maximize on that? Because then I have all this other stuff going on that, I sometimes don't have a moment to go spend that evening with them or spend the weekend with them, but I need to do that. I need to do that more. I've always been a super like, metiche in their stuff. So I always went through their things. I went through all this stuff always of theirs. And I found their old passports and these letters and pictures. Me encantaba y preguntar, ¿quién es ese? Y ese quién? And tal y tal. And hearing their stories. So I think, Irene, you were saying something along the lines of like, there's still time for that stuff. They're going to start cutting the trees here in the neighborhood, by the way, because the rain's coming. You know how that goes.
It's okay. Don't worry.
So it's like, take the time to do that with your parents if you can, to hear some stories, to hear about the other people in these pictures that maybe someone doesn't remember them. I was just having this conversation with like Cindy yesterday, and she puts up this beautiful altar, and she's like, some people are family and some people aren't, and they're just an extension of my family, and I welcome them, for Dia de Muertos, and I give them a speech, and I give them the guidelines, the boundaries and the rules of coming into my home, and And I'm like, do you want to have a story for these people? You know, you want to have, because they somehow played a role in your parents' life, you know, and to how they brought you up. And so, yeah, I think, por eso chillaba, because I think we can all do a little better in showing that time and appreciation. Because now what our parents can give us is that, right? Pass that on to us, is esas historias. So, yeah, me agarró la chilladera.
Yeah, those memories are huge. My kids always do. You know, I always say how blessed we are. They have, in the last couple of years, it's been huge to celebrate like Dia de los Muertos at the schools in Spanish class. So I'm like, man, that wasn't a thing when we were growing up. Maybe I wasn't in Spanish class, so I don't know. But they've all had the opportunity to do something for my dad because it's the person that everybody thinks about doing the project on. And it's always kind of like the same picture that we post. And it's kind of the same stories I tell them. And just this year I was thinking like, dude, like my dad was like such a big part of my life that I don't completely remember like some of the details of the things they want. So it was nice to see those photos. It told me like a story about my dad, even if I don't have it all. You know, it told me how he dressed, or it reminded me of his smile, reminding me of things he had done, and through having to talk to the kids about it, like I love that I have a half sister in Mexico City that I'm close to on Facebook, and she'll post. And I told Noah the other day, like, you know what? I got his birthday wrong, the year. I think I told you he died like 4 years before he did. Sorry. And I'm all looking at a photo of like his tumba, which is great that my sister posts these things and we share photos and stuff. But like she's in that world where she visits him once a year. She does an altar for him. I'm always screenshotting her altar for him. My actual sister does one too. She remembers my dad. I grew up more with my dad. My son's funny. He's like, does it matter? Nobody's going to know. I'm not going to change it. Like, I'm just going to say he died at 73 and not 77. I'm like, yeah, what doesn't matter? I mean, you're lucky I even got his name right. And we like laugh about the fact that I don't really have memories of my dad. And the kids, just like me, only remember like bad things about my dad. You know, like I'm like, don't, you can't say that story. Like I always repeat like terrible things about my dad. He wasn't a walking terrible human being either. There are beautiful things about my dad, I'm sure, but I'm like, of course, se nos quedan las. Yeah, he wasn't very nice to animals. Yeah, don't say that or whatever. Like, oh no, that time I remember when he spanked my sister all the way down the block. Like, baby, don't say that. Like, he's like, whatever. It's always like the stuff he liked. Like, he liked arroz con leche. He liked sandías. It's like the most generic. He was from Mexico. But the new two things that I thought of this year was like, he owned a zapateria. Put that, oh yeah, we'll talk about shoes. And then I was like, he loved music with accordion in it. Like, acordeon le encantaba. So we just did a little accordion. So if he's truly looking down on heaven, he's like, girl, get it together. Like, you don't even know shit about me. But I'm sure he gives me a pass. Speaking of not knowing shit about me, finding the stuff from being a little kid is freaking hilarious, by the way. The work that we did in kindergarten, first grade, all that stuff. I used to write love letters to my parents. Like I was in love with my parents. There's so many cute things that my mom kept. The funniest is one that I dedicated to my mom, and I wrote her name all wrong. I named her Valeria Marina Sanchez. But get this, I named myself Irene Elizabeth Sanchez. I didn't even know my own damn middle name. My middle name is Isabel, y'all. We have died for days. I brought that piece of paper home because I was like death. Like my little first grade self didn't even know my middle name. So you think I'm gonna know my daddy? Like I don't know thyself. That's funny. So anyway, you guys can call me Elizabeth if you ever want. You know, it's interchangeable.
All right, Betty. I'm gonna call you Betty.
Betty. Beth. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. My next question, since we're on a family feel good, it's Thanksgiving week that just passed, so it makes, I guess, a lot of sense. Tell me a funny story that your family would tell about you. What's a story where they're like, this Ceci, esta contamos. I know we have college stories that we tell about each other where Ceci's probably like, I'm tired of hearing the one about the dishes. And I'm like, tired of hearing the one about Vegas. Tired of hearing about the one where Vero got in a fight Willie said. What's the story that your family tells about you? Being a kid, going to school. Are they all X-rated?
No, there's a few. Each one would tell a different story. I know, for example, a story my sister would probably tell would be like, oh my God, Vero le encantaba estar cantando. Like when my sister was dating her now ex-husband, right? When they were dating, this is mind you, my sister's first boyfriend. So that's our first boyfriend, first everything. So the Bodyguard had come out, right? So what year? Can we check out when the Bodyguard came out? Because
you tell your story and I will fact check.
But I loved that movie, and I already loved Whitney Houston. And the songs were just amazing. So then they bought me the tape of the song, the soundtrack.
In 1992.
Okay, I was 10.
That one came out. That's why they bought you the tape.
So I went in 82. I was 10 years old. And I would belt it out. I would play the songs and I would perform for them. I would even turn around and like sing. But that was like, I would love performing for them, the Bodyguard soundtrack. My dad will tell you about probably two stories. My dad will tell you about how I used to love singing in front of the asador when he would be making the chickens. Le decía, papi, levántale la tapadera. And this is before, and I would have my hair all wild. You guys see my hair right now. But I always had curly hair, so siempre estaba medio esponjado because no me dejaba peinar. My mom hated que no me peinaba. O me peinaba y yo me quitaba los chancos. Quítamelos, So my dad was like, te encantaba cantar enfrente del asador. Me decías que te levantara la tapadera y tú te hacías que estabas cantando. Because that's what we get for watching, Siempre en Domingo and, Sábado Gigante with our parents. And and back in the day, the fog machine was like it, right?
Yeah.
And then when he remembers when we had just moved into our house there on where my parents still live there. We moved there in 83. We rang in 84. And it sounded like we were in Iraq. Gulf War, because the bullets, the shooting was just ridiculous. Okay. So I turned 2 there, and they were kind of like pintando la casa, y yo pues de traviesa, se me antojó pintar. I mean, hello, I was a 2-year-old. So I was just like, metí las manitas in the paint, and I painted where they had already painted with my hands everywhere. Okay. Actually, I painted where they were not going to paint. So metí las manos and I just put my hands everywhere, and I could hear them coming. So me escondí. The first thing that was there was a cajón que habían sacado. They had brought out a drawer from one of the things and from a dresser or something. And I hid in, and that's how little I was. I hid within the drawer that was kind of close to the wall that I just ruined. And I could hear my dad, hija de la chingada, ¿dónde está? Ya me pintó aquí, me hizo un desmadre, que no sé qué. My dad always was the chingada madre man, okay? So he'd probably say, like, desde entonces siempre eras bien traviesa, bien esto, y tú haces lo que, se te venía al corazón o a la mente lo haces, But those 2 things he, like, talks about, like, often. My mom talks about how I was just like, eras tan rebelde, siempre has sido tan independiente, te ibas a la calle con todo mundo, querías estar jugando y platicando, querías estar de todo menos en misa, that ese dicho, that would be my mom. But she's like, you've always been so independent, you've always been so like, in your like challenging things. But she said, ¿te acuerdas cuando hiciste llorar a la maestra? And I'm like, oh my goodness. But I'm like, I didn't make her cry on purpose. She was talking about a student that wasn't there. And I think I've shared this on the podcast before. So my mom would probably share those stories. Horacio would share probably about me trying to be a boy, his little brother, and playing sports, but always just being down for the cause, One time he scared me so bad. He's like, I scared her so bad. We were fixing the house and they were adding a bedroom to the house. And the only bathroom that was working was in the dark end of the house where we were adding the bedroom. So I would make sure, because I knew my brothers were jerks, I would make sure to check that they were in the vicinity or nowhere around. Like, at least I'd like, oh, they're outside, to go to the bathroom because it would scare me, especially with at night. One day Horacio got me so good that I left a trail of pee from the moment he scared me all the way to go into the restroom. And I was like, ¿para qué vine al baño? I already peed. I peed my pants. Ya terminé. But he might say something like that, or how I'm always down when I ask him, when he tells me, tráeme la pistola. And I'm like, ahorita vengo, So.
I love that.
Yeah.
¿Y tú, Ceci, qué contarían de ti? What's your favorite story?
Oh my God, so many. So mi tío Nacho, my mom's brother, who's I don't know. He was younger than my mom, so he's kind of like on the younger side. But he loves to tell this story of me being in elementary school, and like he would pick me up right from school, and he's like, yeah. And by the way, his nickname for me is Chimos, like Chimoltrufia, Chimos to this day. ¿Cuál licenciada? ¿Cuál abogada? Chimos. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm fine with it. And his favorite story to tell is one time I must have been, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, no sé, sometime in elementary school. And I guess him and I got into an argument. And he's like, ¿sabes qué? No voy por ti a la escuela de mañana. I'm not going to go pick you up at school for tomorrow. I don't know. You do whatever, like however you want. Walk home from school. I'm not going to come pick you up from school. And the next day, of course, he had to pick me up from school, right? So it was his responsibility. So he says that the next day when he picked me up from school, that he was waiting for me at his usual spot, or I don't know, his usual spot, and that I came out and that I was like this, just staring out in the wilderness, just looking, and that when I spotted him, that I went like like, I remember going like, yes, but he's like, you started doing this like dance and like haciéndole así, y empieza, and like, he just like goes, oh, like he does it overly, like he starts dancing and doing that. I'm like, I never did that. I probably said yes, because kids would do yes like that. He's like, no, you went like this. He's like, así la chimos, and like, so that's his story. My grandma in paz descanse, my dad's mom, she used to love to tell the story about like us being in Sinaparo, like my parents' pueblo, and I must have been, I don't know, 8 or 7, and I'm the oldest of the girl cousins, but she would tell this story about me taking all my little cousins like to La Plaza, and I didn't tell anybody, I didn't inform any of the adults, and it's pretty safe, but still, like the fact that I left and that I arrived at her house and that she's like, did you guys get permission to come over? And that I was like, yeah, like they're with me or whatever, and nos sirvió sandía, whatever, and then like the rest of the family were like super scared, buscándonos por todo el pueblo, no sé qué tanto. And so I brought my little crew with me, and I knew how to get to my other grandma's house. And so she would always tell that story about me. And then the rest of my family, I would say, would tell story. Oh, my dad would probably tell a story about one time también, something about me and like leaving by myself and like walking on my own. I must have been like in first grade. So what's that, 5, 6 years old? And my dad would work the night shift. So he would sleep during the day. And oftentimes I had to go to to the office because he was late to pick me up from school. And I guess I was like, I'm going to go to my friend's house. My dad's not here. So I remember walking to my friend's house and arriving at her house, and her mom saying, oh, your parents know you're here. Yeah. And I just ran into the backyard to play. Hours later, like there's a knock on the door, and it's my dad and the principal like looking for me. And like, they finally thought, oh, let's go to her friend Norma's house. And there I was. So that would be my dad's story. And like Vero too, I was a performer. I know there's home videos of me performing to Yuri from back in the day. It wasn't even a D or a cassette player. It was one of those, remember those thick ones that you would just insert? Like, I don't even know what it's called, pero con la música. We just insert.
8-tracks?
Yeah,
8-tracks.
8-track.
En la consola.
En la consola, this big ass my parents had.
We had that forever. And it just...
Videos of that. And I had this little like yellow mini skirt. I remember that vividly, like yellow mini skirt. And then at 12, I have a video of me recording or singing the song La de A Whole New World, like like preteen, performing it, in my preteen body, because me acuerdo que like ya se me veían los little boobies, because estaban creciendo and I'm singing todavía. And then later in my teenage years, like performing all kinds of songs de Selena, like Bidi Bidi Bam Bam y Amor Prohibido. So those are the stories that my family would tell about me growing up.
Qué bonito, qué bonito. I thought about how like this is so beautiful because we are keeping this recorded. All these, we have such an archive, not only of photos, but like us telling these stories is so cool. The story I can think of that my parents would tell, and now it's been reaffirmed, which by the way, my tip of the day was going to be like, if you're struggling to find your strength, ask people to tell you stories about who you were as a child. Your strength is buried in who you were as a child, because it is no coincidence that as a child, I would get awards for talking, and I would also get good grades, but always be told she's always talking in class. She needs to talk less in class. Like for years, talking was like the thing that was criticized about me, but also like, she's such a good student. If only she talked less. Some teachers didn't like it. Other students are like, she's got the gift. She's going places. Es platicadora esa chiquilla. I do think it's because I went to kindergarten early. My mom would take my brother, who would cry his head off because he didn't want to go, and he's 2 years older than me, and I really wanted to go, and I wanted to be with him. So I went to kindergarten at a preschool. So I was there several preschool years and kindergarten, and I do think that my intelligence is not natural. It's like I was just in school for so many years that it's just a little brain developed. It really did. And the irony, because my kids didn't go to preschool. Sorry, guys. So anyway, I was always being called out for being a talker. My mom loves telling the stories about que siempre me regañaban. I got the motor mouth award in kindergarten. Like I got the Miss Bossy award in kindergarten. I was the cheer captain, I was the sorority president and the CEO. Like definitely leadership was always there. So ask people about you as a kid because it translates now. It's often probably something natural about you. Both of you being performers does not fall on deaf ears. Like, of course you're here and you have a podcast. Both of you love the mic. Both of you perform, right? Like it's your strength. You're good at this podcast because you were a performer then. I'm good at this podcast porque me gasto el tiempo hablando, me encanta hablar, right? So we all have that strength that was there since we were little kids. A story my family would tell about me too, other than being bien habladora and a motor mouth and talking really fast, would be que era bien corajuda. And we always give my dad that credit. Anything bad is like my dad taught us to be that. But I would get so pissed. My poor dad, huh? Like my mom was an angel. She was an angel. But anyway, que they would have my brother ignore me because I would be like, Titi, Titi. I've told you the story, I think, like Titi. Le decía Titi because his name, they called him Steve. Titi, Titi. And they would be like, ignórala, ignórala, ignórala. Titi. Titi, Titi. And then I would get all upset and I'd have like veins sticking out. And they love that story about being corajuda, that I was the baby. They would give me everything. So when family would come from Mexico, que decía, every time they touch our stuff, our shampoo, our cups, our plates, our brushes, it's eso no tuyo. Eso no tuyo. That I was not the kind that wanted to share as a little kid. Eso no tuyo. Eso no tuyo. So not only would they make me be pissed off to see my little veins stick out, they'd freaking torture me by touching everything in the house so that I could say, eso no tuyo. Eso no tuyo. So apparently I was a spoiled little brat peleándome con la gente de Mexico. The other story my mom would love to tell about me is that I was very studious. Like she always would tell people and brag about, my daughter comes straight home. She does her homework. She's very studious. And I have always been like really disciplined about like, I guess you got to do it. I guess you got to do it. But, my kids think that's crazy. My kids are like, you would come home from school, being in school all day, learning, teachers, and go do your homework. Like, you didn't need a mental break. You didn't need to eat anything. You didn't need to go to the bathroom. I was like, well, I'm sure I went to the bathroom. Maybe I had a snack, but yeah, 3 to 4 is like homework time. They're like, you are crazy. But my mom loves telling that story. And I remember those. I have my little desk. I have my own little room. Like my sister went off and got married. So I had this privilege. It's not lost on me that they went from everybody crammed in these rooms to being the baby. Everybody started moving on, getting married, leaving. And I had all this privacy and quiet. Like, yeah, what am I going to do? Bored half the time. I almost was like an only child in a lot of ways. I'd sit there and I'd do my homework. So my mom always told the story about this girl. Like, she's so good. No problems, no issues, like homework. So she still says it to this day. She loves saying that story, que me encantaba hacer las tareas. And like play that I was a nurse or a lawyer or a doctor. And I love playing with freaking encyclopedias. Me encantaban. Damn, encyclopedias were fun, you guys.
Books, girl.
We're
Books.
just dorks, huh?
Just smelling the books for me, like, oh my
Yes.
God. That's
The
why.
library?
See, that's why
Yes.
that's behind me. I just come to
Yes, los libros.
perfect.
All of it. So I love books, playing with the encyclopedia and the dictionaries. Me encantaban. And we didn't have internet, so that's cool. So those are the stories they would probably tell about me. Thank you for sharing the stories they would tell about you. This episode is winding down. Is there anything else you guys want to share on this kind of family-oriented, chillando, un poquito de todo episode? Any last-minute thoughts or feelings?
Yeah, something you said like reminded me of another like beautiful memory that I'm like, oh my God, that was such a good memory that I'm going to remember forever. So you said something about, well, obviously telling the story. So it brought me back to like a story that my mom was sharing recently in like the past year. So, it was El Día de Reyes. So it was like, I don't know, about 10 days before she passed. And so that's the beautiful memory, right? That we were at her house. She was like pobre y no estaba acostada. But it was like on a Friday and we were all sharing like songs that we liked and what it meant to us. Like some of my cousins there, my sister was there. And then my dad came to sit down, even like, Mari, her caretaker was there, and we all shared this song. So I saved all those songs and I made a playlist out of that from that day. And so that's like a memory that I'm never going to forget. Like when I want to think about my mom and just feel it, like I play that playlist. And then during that conversation that we were gathering and sharing our songs, I said something about Luis, I don't know, something. And then my mom, like I had never heard her say anything about this, but she proudly like told Mari, like, sí, ellos dos salen por lo menos una vez al mes. Like she was proud to share like, they go on date night at least once a month. And, that they always do that. And I was like, oh, Mom, si se fija, that we do that. So anyway, that reminded me of that day.
And it meant a lot to her, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Bueno, que lo apreciaba and she shared it. Lo presumía.
Lo presumió. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Qué bonito. So this is a tribute in a lot of ways to family, to friendship, to crying together. It's a beautiful way to end 2024 on a high note in a positive way. We said that we would share a couple of little gems and secrets. We are really excited for 2025. The women of Level Up Latina, we have been doing this for 5 years. And so every once in a while, it's good for us to look at our work, at our business, at this labor of love, at our enjoyment and our joy, and think about what we want to do in the next year and how we want to do it together. We have all agreed off air and here, I'm sure you hear on the podcast, how our magic sauce, our secret sauce is the way the three of us work together and how unique we are and how different we are. And also when we come together, it just becomes something beautiful and strong. So with that mental energy and that in mind, we want to create a new program for our audience, a new program for prospective clients. And I'm not going to say too much, but I will say that we're going to launch something really exciting in January. So that's why we will be taking the month of December off, not only to step away and be with our families and enjoy the holidays and travel, but also to spend some time working together off air and packaging something really beautiful to launch in January. So you don't want to miss it. You want to stay tuned for that. You want to be on our social media account. If you don't already follow us, please follow us at Level Up Latina is our handle, Instagram and Facebook. And honestly, we do all of our work on Instagram. So as long as you're following us there, you're going to get the nuggets. You're going to get these surprises. So stay tuned for what's coming, what we are launching, and be the first to sign up for this. If you don't already subscribe to our newsletter, please do that on our website, leveluplatina.com. We might trickle in some information there. But again, the best place to follow us would be social media. If you want to ask questions beforehand about anything from this year, from our guests, from our brunch, anything at all, we love hearing from our audience at Level Up Latina. To DM us would be great, which we're very active, as I said, on socials, but you can also email us. Our email is admin@leveluplatina.com. And if you want to avoid the rush and get your coaching package now, do it now. Everybody wants coaching in January, just like everybody wants to get a new diet going.
Word.
Suddenly they want to save money. Suddenly they give a shit about their budget. Then it's like, I could use a coach. I'm going to be really transparent. We tend to raise our prices every January, especially when this demand is there. So get in early if you want to become a client. We are likely going to have a lot of sales this month in November. It's a little late in the month, but I'm sure my co-host would agree that if you come to us in December and you want the same Black Friday deal that we promoted all of November, talk to us. We'll be flexible. But come to us at leveluplatina.com to learn about our coaching. Keep in mind that Ceci has been back to coaching. Vero has amazing offers. So do I. So get your coach today. We don't all take constant clients, so there might just be 2 or 3 spots in some of our slots. So I know you're dying to work with Ceci, so you better jump in. You better do it now, because in January she's going to be guzzled up.
I have space
If you
right
want to
now.
work with Vero, igual.
Space right now, so hurry up.
Okay, sale, exacto. So hurry up before we get all booked up. Different walks of life, different times, call for different workloads. So each of us have a couple of spots and only a couple spots. We're not just blowing smoke up your ass. So go to leveluplatina.com.
We wouldn't do that
And
without your
sign up.
consent.
I know, we wouldn't do that. That's not the story you're going to tell. But follow us there on our website to get more updates and look us up. And until then, have a wonderful and safe rest of your 2024. Don't forget to level up. ¿Qué más,
Agárrense la
amores?
colita siempre.
Happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Besos,
Make them
las
beautiful and
queremos.
memorable. And talk to us on social media. We'll still be very active there. Las queremos. Thank you for all your support in 2024. It's been a wonderful year. Thank you for those that came to our brunch. Thank you for those that follow us and have followed us for years. Those that just began listening to the podcast and you're in like 2019, Vero, Ceci, and Irene. We love you. We hope that you make it to this number. And until then, gracias por todo. Have a wonderful 2025 and we'll see you guys in the new year.
Even.
See you then.